We often do it on Zoom and then one of us forgets to record, which is why I asked. So, you know, that was a rehearse. That was like the warm-up. Do you know what I mean? You know, you get a guy going, come on, that used to be my job, that. Right, are we ready?
No, hang on. We're ready. We're going to have to... Right, that was a good practice.
Good job, mate. Ready?
So,
I'm the man on the mic.
And I'm the guy in the bike.
And this is the Velo29 Live Podcast. See? And Rich, we're together, live. We're in the same place. And we're actually doing it live on screen.
We've talked about doing a live one a few times, haven't we? But that would be like live on Zoom to the internet or something. But
yeah, and we're
doing that, and we've got all of our riders.
And we've never been in the same room or the same place.
No, I've managed to avoid that.
Oh! By the way, if you want, and is there anybody that's actually listened to the, you know, maybe the majority of the podcast? Be honest if you haven't. Oh,
put
look,
your
quite
hand
a few
up
people.
anyway, go on.
But yeah, just pretend. You can play podcast bingo if you want, folks, because you know that I'm going to mention something about my weight. I'm probably going to mention something about my bad back, aren't I, Michelle? And Richard's going to mention something about an event that he's got a new plan for. All right, so you can play podcast bingo. But this is a brand new event, 3 days in Yorkshire. We've got a live audience. Listen to that.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
And we're here. So what do we think? What are we going to talk about tonight, Rich? Let's talk about this.
We never script it, do we? That's,
no, we don't.
I think worth mentioning that in the early days we used to be a little bit, I'd send you some notes or a voice recording or something like that.
Yeah.
But after about 5 or 6,
yeah,
we just stopped doing that. And
can you tell?
Yeah, the quality deteriorated at that point.
Definitely. But we need to talk about the event. When you were in the pandemic, in lockdown, you were like, I've got some new ideas. And we've talked about it. The other thing that's a podcast bingo, isn't it, is that I came up with the idea for Freedom to Ride. Yeah. Just remember that, everybody. All right, I came up with the name, and I still haven't had the copyright finances yet. I don't think I ever will.
Well, I did sort you a lunch.
He sorted me a lunch. He sorted me a gluten-free lunch.
All week was, don't forget I'm vegan.
I'm not vegan. Gluten-free.
Sorry, he's gluten-free.
Not that I have any issues with vegan.
I had forgot.
I've got some friends who are vegans. I don't have an issue with, but I'm gluten-free, mate. It's slightly more complex.
And I was thinking, of the 1,001 things I've got to organise this week, Joe's dietary requirements was not top of the list. So you got a little bit of a pointed reply, didn't you?
I did something about, yeah, whatever. But there we are. So we're here. And no, seriously, when you started to think about this, because you know, like some people who kind of gave up during the pandemic and said, I'm not putting any events on, you were always thinking about what's new, what's different, what can we do, what risks can we take?
Yeah, we were. We've always wanted to do a multi-stage event, and there are a few, but it's just Sportive A, B and C on 3 different days.
Yeah, it's normally 100 miles here, 100 miles there, 100 miles there.
And that's all right. It's a challenge in a way, but we like to do something a bit different. And I think yesterday, a few people have come to me and said the time trial was really the thing that sold it for them, and just stuff like that. And it's a huge effort. Like for us who put Sportives on, building a stage and even a ramp, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any amateur cycling event that I've ever been involved with that's had a start ramp. I don't think that's ever happened, has it? Does anyone know of that? You know, I mean, I've done time trials for pro races, but certainly never.
I've never ridden down a start ramp.
No, there you go.
I should have had a go yesterday.
Oh, you should have had a go. You could have fallen off.
I didn't bring my bike, so if James is around, we'll have to build this back at headquarters, James, and so I can have a go.
In his mankini. Okay. Yeah, you should do that. But no, seriously, that's what... And I know we've discussed it, and we have little chats before the podcast, and you'd said to me, look, you know, I want to do the bridge between a pro experience and a Sportive. And that's been the dream, hasn't it, for a while?
It has, yeah. Riding a Sportive is all about the experience, isn't it? Because you're riding with a lot of people, the seeing a different part of the world, knowing that you're going to be supported and you're not just setting off in the middle of nowhere with the hope you get back. And so it's like you sort of come on a journey with Velo29, you get to ride all these different places, and we sort of like always evolving that. And this weekend has been a progression of that to different experiences, and I'm sure loads of the guys and girls have not ridden consecutive events, and we'll find out how that's going tomorrow, I think, with a rather tough 100 miles. There'll be some tired legs. But
there's some tired legs today. I thought we had 116 riders, and I think we ended up with 90, so that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, we're actually missing 3, so if anybody knows the whereabouts of...
we found them. We found them.
Oh, we found them.
In the pub.
That is a relief.
We found them in the pub. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, when you're coming up with this idea, what were the things that you really, other than the start ramp and the TV, what were the things you really want to make work with something like this?
I think this is an enormous part of it, and people. But I've realised over the weekend, sort of the family aspect of it as well, how it's a big ask of the family to say, I've done all these events over the last 10 weeks and now I'm disappearing on a bank holiday weekend. Yeah. And you can imagine the sunshine and all that kind of thing. So to be able to bring the family and use the TPs and all of that. And in the future, there is accommodation in the centre as well. And so as we grow the event and restrictions allowing, we'll be able to do stuff like that as
we should ask the question to the audience, how many fellas now owe their partners some serious partner points? Yeah, there's one. Any more? What are you going to do, boys? Have you got any ideas on what you're going to do to make up for it? Or should I? Is it not broadcastable? Go out for a meal. It's as good as it gets. Oh, he's a romantic, isn't he?
It's costing me a new bathroom.
What was that?
It's costing me a new bathroom.
It's costing you a new bathroom.
That's the kind of commitment.
Now that's what we're talking about. I'm going out for a meal. Yeah, mate. Well done. What about you at the back, sir? Oh, good man. I'm booking another one, but I'm booking a place for her as well. Does she want to do this? That might not work. I'm just saying you need to try and... I think we call it consent. That's all I'm going to say, all right? I think we call it consent. Yes, sir?
My wife said only 3 days.
Oh! If you didn't hear that on the podcast, everybody, the gentleman said, my wife said, only 3 days? I mean, she wanted you further. So, well, when we organise the 3 weeks in Yorkshire, you're up for that, are you?
21-day tour, that's what I'm after.
A what? A 21-day? Rich, people ask for these things. Do you ever get somebody that comes with an idea and you go, actually, that's not a bad idea?
We have done, yeah, definitely. Changes on routes and stuff. We'll often put a route together and the process will be an idea that we have, somewhere that we want to go, Google Maps and then get out and go and check it. But in between publishing the route and the event and actually getting out and checking it and fine-tuning it, we often hear from people and say, oh, you're going down that road, but a little bit to the side is a much better road. And that kind of thing. Local knowledge is tremendously helpful.
Well, it really is. I mean, a lot of these people here today, you were saying yesterday's route was just beautiful, wasn't it? And it was quiet. And that's part of that local knowledge, right? There's not a lot of traffic there. We'll have a go at that. But also, you're always up for pushing the boundaries, aren't you?
We are, yeah. Just being different and in a good way. By the way, tomorrow is a hard route, and you'll all come back blaming me, but actually, it's James. Over there. He designed that route tomorrow, and today and yesterday actually. So, credit to James, but also if you're looking for someone to blame when you goose tomorrow night, head that direction.
That's interesting, Rich, because that's the first time I've heard you ever say credit to James. Normally you say, no, that was James's fault. So, James, mate, you actually got some credit. I would take that, mate, because it ain't going to happen very often, you know what I mean? But no, seriously, it is a team effort, isn't it? I mean, we talked on the podcast a lot. They hear you, they hear me, but actually you've got one heck of a team around you.
We really have, yeah. We're a few people have come and gone over the years, but we've now got
solid
12 solid guys who rock up, and they have most of them have day jobs and do something else as well. So on a weekend they're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and come in, and they genuinely care about everyone who takes part having a really good, safe event as well. And if it's 9 o'clock at night after a 4 o'clock start and somebody needs picking up, I remember we packed everything away at our 5 years ago at Stockton event, and some guy, we were missing one guy. In fact, it's a classic case. He's gone home and he hasn't told us. And the phone rang, and he was at Scarborough. It was like 40 miles off course. When did you last see your sign? Oh, around lunchtime.
So when you say he was in Scarborough, I thought you were going to say he was sat at home with his family.
No,
he was still riding.
If Scarborough wasn't on the course, it probably would have been midnight when we were coming. He'd have reached the beach.
And he just carried on riding.
Yeah.
Oblivious.
And the guys jumped in the van and went and picked him up, and it's a hard event for us as well.
And it is interesting because I've been involved in quite a few of these now, and we say cut-off time is 6 or cut-off time is 7, and quite often you're still James. Come on then, mate. Come and say hello. I know you want to be on a podcast. Come on. Oh, you don't want to do it now. Funny that. And you're still, people are rocking up at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you're still welcoming them. You're still giving them the medal. You're making sure that they're happy.
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy who finishes first has done really well and is worthy of some applaud. But the chances are the person who finishes last
has probably done the bigger challenge.
And for us, some people will tell us what the challenge is about. But for some people, it could be the biggest sporting achievement in their entire life, or they could be coming back from an illness or never done anything like this before. And so we think it's super important to stand on the finish line, regardless of when it is, and leave all the infrastructure in place and make share that special occasion with everyone, because you just don't know what it means to them.
Well, I wasn't going to do this, but we've got a member of the audience that has done their first ever Sportive this weekend. Never been involved in a Sportive, has borrowed a bicycle to do it, and he's doing a multi-day Sportive. It's Sheng over there. Can we give Sheng a big round of applause, mate? Because you can't see on the video, but this gentleman, it's good, isn't it? Isn't that incredible?
I even it's a borrowed bike, and I even offered him a ride back from the top of Sportive Bank to here, and you completely declined, didn't you? There was no way you were getting in the van, so well done.
And I know he will probably want to share his story himself, but for you it's about recovery from a difficult time, isn't it? It's about getting somewhere after a difficult time, and if that's your motive, that's fantastic,
Yeah, brilliant, yeah.
I expect we've got other stories like that. So feel free, guys, when you share with them. We what we want to do, and we've talked about this before, is get guests on the podcast, haven't we? We've talked about getting the Velo29 family, as we say, involved and telling their stories and why they do what they do, and that would be a great thing we could do, isn't it?
Yeah, if anyone ever fancies it, drop us a line.
Because we do it on Zoom.
You're welcome to join.
We don't normally talk to each other, really. We just get on Zoom.
You're completely rubbish at... I only ever send messages, because I never have time to ring anyone, and you're rubbish at sending messages, aren't you? So it's just not going to happen, really.
That's fairly true, really, but we can sort something out, I'm sure. But moving on to this weekend, how much does the weather play in organising an event? Because you never know, do you?
I think, we've been unlucky the last two events at Barn and Castle. Anybody who was there will probably never forget that. And the Tour of the Peak last week as well. The Tour of the Peak, the sun has always shone on the Tour of the Peak.
Not this year.
But I've never been so wet.
And it was a headwind right the way round for the riders,
right the way round,
all the way round.
This with short stages and stuff, the riding would be okay, but it would completely ruin the evenings, wouldn't it? We did, we had a look in the sports hall, and it's a bit echoey, but had it come to it, we would have done the evenings in there, but it wouldn't have been the same. This has really, we're fortunate in that respect. And
we got to give a shout out to the guys that have done the teepees as well.
Yeah, because they came to the Tour of the Peak. That was their first time, so this is and it's the guys at the centre as well. We came back from the lockdown in September, and it was incredibly hard after such a long break. But for these guys, they're just coming back now. This is the second event that the TP guys are doing, and it's the first time that the centre for 18 months have hosted something like this. So they were a bit nervous about the food, I know, and I just said I'd chuck some pasta and sauce in a pan, it'll be fine. But they've excelled themselves, haven't they? So
live on video, how's the food been, everybody? Look at that. It's not bad, is it?
It's a charity-run centre. Their normal stuff is schools and disadvantaged people and that kind of thing. So it's brilliant for them to be able to accommodate us on a weekend. But it's a great place, isn't it?
And Rich, the thing we've been talking about a lot is you wanting to make the most of coming out of lockdown. You know, actually doing something. I know it's a small number, but it's an event that's going to be remembered. It's an event that's going to have an impact.
I hope so, yeah.
I don't see why not.
It has for us, definitely.
Totally.
Doing new stuff is always, it's exciting, but it's hard. And so, because it's gone so well so far, we'll remember it, I think.
Haven't planned this, didn't ask you this, we never do. Anything exclusive you can tell us? Any ideas, thoughts, developments, things that you want to do? I know it's live, and you know, we might can just delete it afterwards. Do you know what I mean?
Ride Monaco.
Ride Monaco? Oh my goodness!
Well,
is that a thing?
This is a secret, and so I don't even know if I've told this Joe about this, but we've worked on for a long time recreating the original Tour de France route. So. That was the 1902, like
1903. 1903.
Yeah, and so I've researched even like which cafes they used for the feed station, where the start and the end of each stage was, how it was run. They had 88 riders, and so we would limit it to 88 riders.
Wasn't it 5 days?
It was 5 days.
Throughout the whole of France?
Yeah, and there was no transfers or anything like that, so some of the stages were 400 kilometres. So it's
400 kilometres?
Yeah.
Now, you've been researching this for what reason?
Because I just think it would be like the ultimate ultra challenge event. And it's, you know, like this is something special, and we're here to ride our bikes, but it's kind of like celebrating that and coming together. There'll be lots of new friends made and all that kind of thing. And I think that is, there aren't many sports where you can relive the occasion. You know, like if you could go to Wembley and play in the World Cup final,
the 1966 final,
and run around for 90 minutes wearing retro kit, but you can't do it. It's just not possible.
Right.
But you can't put there Jack Charlton and everybody. But with that event, I think you can. You can ride down the same roads and have the same challenges.
Do you have to have woolen jerseys?
I might draw the line.
I was going to say.
I'm sure somebody would.
I've tried one of them on, and oh my goodness, they're horrible.
So yeah, I think that would be the.
Okay,
we need this pandemic to completely go away, of course, and for the French to forget about Brexit, because they'll just boot us out, won't they?
What's the length of the original route then, in 5 days?
2,200, 2,300, something like that.
Kilometres,
yeah.
In 5 days?
5 days, yeah.
Is there anyone up for this? No. One person? We've got two?
I can do the signage.
Yeah, well, crew, yeah, we'll do it, yeah. I love it. Well, okay. You reckon there are people, don't you?
There are, yeah. When we first did the Yorkshire Beast, I said it wasn't originally my idea, and I said that it just won't work. There aren't enough people who would be up for that challenge. But I think we entered a completely different part of the Sportive market, and we had 500 people in the first year. Then there was 250, and there's 500 again next year. So it's clearly that kind of thing has an appeal to people. But I've run it past some really serious cyclists, and they're like, well, I could do it, but it's too far. So I think it's a once in a lifetime thing for people to do.
Wow, so watch your space on that one, yeah?
Yeah, just push Brexit.
Have you got a name yet, or do you need me to come up with one?
It'll be called 1903. We can't afford the royalties, so it's going to be called 1903, which would...
clever. That's a good way of getting around it.
Well, they wouldn't let us call it Le Tour.
Still not as good as Freedom to Ride. Anyway, very good, very good. Rich, anything else? We always have our last thoughts. I mean, we used to have quite a structure, didn't we, in the podcast?
We did.
And that's kind of gone now.
To the worst side, yeah.
Any last thoughts?
I just think it's been brilliant. I think, as always with our events, we've weaned out the people who are not in the spirit of what Velo29 do, which is riding your bikes in a friendly way and having a brilliant time. And I think, as always with all our events, all of the people who've taken part have really made it a brilliant event and completely the right attitude. You know, even the guys who were on the stage for the top three for the time trial yesterday, the three men, clearly they're serious cyclists.
Yeah.
And they've turned up with disc wheels and tri-bars and everything like that. But the minute they got to the stage and they were having fun, and they were having, I don't think they're here.
They're called the 6AMs, and they are a little club that ride before work.
And Harry reminded me of yesterday when he said when he was a kid, he was serious at the time he was racing.
Yeah.
But afterwards he'd be selling Mars bars at school, and was that kind of thing.
And that's what we've always wanted, isn't it? You know, we want to have fun seriously. You know, we want to enjoy the event. We want to take it seriously, make sure everybody is safe, but actually in the spirit of riding as a family.
Absolutely, yeah. So to everyone, thank you very much. It's been brilliant. Looking forward to tomorrow. I have got the minibus on standby for the tired legs, and I expect we might be needing it. So, but what a brilliant weekend, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Jack as well.
Yeah, we're going to do that literally imminently. So everybody, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that's listening to the podcast, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Right, you have to press stop now.
How many people do a podcast and spend an hour beforehand setting the kit up and then have to walk around ungracefully and turn off the camera?
Because you won't pay a technician.
If you can find me a technician.
If you know any technicians, let him know. So yeah, guys, we'll give you a couple of minutes, or do you want us to go straight in, Rich?
Is Jack
he's here, yeah, I've seen him, he's ready to go. He's in the green room, or what we call under the shelter by the toilets.
Then I didn't need to come and switch it off.
Just carry on then, shall we? We're going to be COVID safe, we're going to change the mic. Guys, on a serious note, while we're having a little chat, how have you found this weekend? Give us a little bit of feedback, thumbs up. Anyone want to say anything? What's it been like? Did anybody know what they were expecting? Has it exceeded or not exceeded your expectations? One of the best Sportive rides today. Is that just because it was just a brilliant challenge?
Weather, and I've done over 40 as well.
Everything.
Feed stop.
Oh, the feed stop, yeah.
The ham sandwich giver.
Yeah, the ham sandwich, hander out there.
Bless him, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Jack Rees onto the stage, please. From Ribble Weldtite. Jack, how are you, mate?
Very well.
Thanks for coming and joining us tonight. You'll just need to get right close to the microphone. Don't be afraid of it. It won't bite, and they'll be able to hear you. We had Harry Tanfield on last night, and Harry was telling us a little bit about your relationship and the fact that you kind of spoke to him about this year and how things had been going. Tell us a little bit about that from your perspective. I mean, you're wanting, as a team manager, to do well, but you're wanting to support riders as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's it, absolutely. Obviously, Harry and I have been friends for a long time. And, he found himself in an unfortunate position, I guess, that a lot of bike riders do. It's everyone that views it from the outside, I guess, they have a real romanticised view of the sport, but, when you see it firsthand, it's a tough old game, and Harry was bouncing around from year contract to year contract, and he had a really good welter, but, that wasn't enough in the team's opinion to renew it, and they sort of led him on at that late stage, and he was without a ride really, and somebody of his calibre, shouldn't be that was the case. So we sort of came up with enough money to sort of support him at least, in a smaller capacity.
Short term, yeah.
But we had this clause, or an agreement that if an offer came in place from any team of a level higher than us, so Pro Continental or World Tour, we'd immediately just release Harry from any obligations and allow him to make that move. And I think there were the late stages with Quebecer. They had Hunt on board, which are a British company, for the wheels, and it was important to them that they had a British rider, and they came in and offered Harry a contract, and that was it. He was with us about 10 days, I think, in the end, and he went on to them. So,
how did that make you feel genuinely? Because I know you're wanting to support the rider, but to have somebody of Harry's quality in your team, that would have done you a world of good, surely.
It would have, but at the end of the day, for us, we're very much billing ourselves as we're a British team, and we're providing opportunities to British riders, but we want to be a stepping stone for if we have riders that are at that calibre to progress. Harry progressed quicker than we imagined, but we replaced him with James Shaw, who's very similar quality of rider and in a similar position. So although it was disappointing, that we'd lost Harry and the ability for him to perform for us, it meant that he was going onto the stage that we know he's capable of. So it was, it was definitely mixed, but definitely erring on the side of happiness for Harry, I think.
So Jack, give us a little bit of an insight from a team manager perspective. When you know, obviously as a British team, like you say, a lot of the contracts are rolling year in, year out. What are you trying to balance when you're putting a team together? Because a bit like, you know, any team, you've got to get the right personalities, the right style of riders, the right ethos. I mean, what's your emphasis? What are you looking for? Or is it a mixture of things?
Yeah, it's a mixture, but I think the personality that you sort of touched upon, that's so important. You know, you put in a group of guys together, a group of men, a group of competitive men, and the sort of personalities have to mix well. And we you know, it's been a sort of year-on-year process. We've tried to keep the core of the team for 5 years or so very similar, and only brought in 1 or 2 riders a year because we have a really good environment for riders to perform and, you know, buy into the process and buy into sort of what we want to do. But yeah, it's important that anyone new fits into that, because it's easy for someone with a different personality or a different perspective can easily just upset everything else that's already established. So it is a challenge.
And that consistency is absolutely vital, like you're saying, because it only takes somebody with a different ethos or, you know, a bit of difficult prima donna or whatever, and it can upset things really, really quickly.
Yeah, I think so. I guess you see it with football teams, don't you? They don't make many changes really, and there's always talk about a certain personality can upset the dressing room, and it's you know, it's very much the same with us. 'Cause, you know, although we don't train together in a captive environment like a football team would, we're on the road for maybe 150 days a year. The lads are having a room together. They tend to socialise together in between race blocks. They go on training camp. So that sort of engagement and sort of understanding that they have between each other is so important. And without that, you know, it's too difficult a sport, as everyone knows, to perform, you know, without that there.
So we've had a global pandemic. There's suddenly been no racing. How have you handled that? How do you deal with something like that from a team manager's perspective?
There was difficulty. No, it hasn't been easy. You know, it hasn't been easy for anyone in any line of work. You know, other than if you sell PPE, I would imagine. But it's
if you're one of Boris Johnson's friends, you're probably doing all right.
Yeah, we could have got some of those contracts out of hell. But
yeah.
We had to shift focus, and that was fundamentally we're underpinned by commercial partners, so they, you know, provide either equipment to us or they provide financial support to enable us to deliver a race programme and visibility for them and corporate opportunities and stuff. So without that, we had to switch. So we did a lot of we did some competitions, we did some you know, virtual racing, obviously. We did some sponsor engagement, we did a lot of virtual sort of conference calls and that sort of thing. We were lucky that in this country time trialling was able to, you know, run because of the nature of the event, and we put quite a lot of focus on that, so it enabled us to do that. And then we had to sort of set our stall out really to hit the ground running whenever things cropped up, you know, and that was what we had to do to sort of stay relevant, I guess, as well. Yeah.
You've mentioned the sponsors. What's the balancing act between you doing what's right for your team as a bunch of riders, but also keeping the money coming in, keeping the sponsors happy? What's that balance like?
Yeah, it's a trade-off. It's always a trade-off, but I think we try to work with partners that are understanding of our approach and what we want to do, so we deliver the return on investment by proxy, by doing what we would do anyway. I think it's a challenge if you had somebody come in that wanted you to do an entirely different thing that you weren't able to do, because then you'd have to make too many compromises on maybe the performance side or the race programme that you wanted to put together. So it's always that fine line between selling them the vision and then buying into that, but having a little bit of input, you know, in order to get what they want from it, but not sort of reshaping it, you know, from their perspective.
And I guess that can be difficult because, you know, there's quite a disparity between the teams that have got a lot and the teams that haven't. You mentioned football, and it's not dissimilar these days now, is it? You know, with the big money coming in at the top and the guys further down kind of being ignored or left out. How do you deal with that? Or don't you?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you use your resources to the best of your ability, and the investments and choices and race programme that you make is reflective of the riders that you have, you know, the talents that you have within the team, and you're going in with a specific set of objectives, you know, whether that might not be necessarily to win the race overall, but it might be to animate it or to get television coverage, or to go for an intermediate competition. or to...
And who sets those goals?
Yeah, I mean, we do. We have a rough idea, basically, of what our year would look like, and then we try and speak to the riders individually early season and see how they would fit into that. And then, it's about trying to deliver that, that plan, I guess, yeah.
So these guys have experienced a bit of a tour environment. That's what we've tried to do, a stage race environment without the racing, so to speak. Give us a little bit of insight from a tour manager's perspective, how you handle a stage race. Is it about being so well planned or being able to react or whatever? What are the keys to doing well in those environments?
I think a lot of it is balancing the travel and additional commitments or stresses on the riders. So,
right.
The performance, they're obviously all tuned in to delivering that performance in each specific stage. But what you wouldn't consider is, the length of transfers, all the changing hotels, the poor quality food on occasion, the early mornings, all that sort of stuff. So the performance almost takes care of itself because the riders are fully ready and prepared to do that. But what they're not necessarily prepared for is all the other additional stresses. So for us, typically, it's about minimising those as much as we can and trying to establish a level of consistency. So like for this year, for example, we started working with a company called Weldtite that provide like pillows and mattresses and stuff, and a company that provide massage tools and recovery guns and that type of thing. So it's just about trying to give the lads the tools possible, to make the recovery and the sort of sleep, which is so vital, as well as we can, between the stages.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed you've got MediCheck on your team as well as a sponsor, and they've been able to help even through the pandemic, haven't they?
Yeah, so we do a quarterly blood profiling with the riders, and that's not necessarily just a performance thing. It's about understanding
health, well-being,
health and well-being, and MediChecks have obviously provided the PCR testing. So for this year, for example, the lads have just finished a race in Estonia yesterday, and just for that trip, a 5-day trip, we needed 11 PCR tests. So you're talking a significant amount of resource would go on those if we didn't have somebody like MediChecks who could facilitate the testing for us.
So are you always looking to fill that gap? What is the area that will give you that extra point or whatever extra percent?
Yeah, we have 3 categories of partners really. We have bike industry partners, so they would cover things like the race suits and the equipment. We have financial partners who would back us purely on a financial basis, and we would have performance optimization partners, so something like MediChecks, like the recovery company I talked about, like the mattresses, like the vehicles, I guess, and those type of things. So every prospective partner falls into one of those 3 categories, and for us it's about trying to understand, obviously the best deal we can possibly get for that company, but also what they're able to offer to enhance our performance on whatever level that fits into. And
as team manager, are you having to balance all these things? So you're not just focusing on the riders and the team and the races, you're focusing on the other stuff as well, is that right? Or have you got other help?
Yeah, so my role really is in the operations and commercial side, I guess, of the team. So we have 15 or so key partners, and they underpin the team. Without them, the team isn't a thing. So I need to make sure that we're delivering for them. And then we have Colin now, Colin Sturgis, who is renowned in his own right, I guess, former world champion. He manages the day-to-day performance of the riders really. So it's there's a couple of different teams within a team, keeping everything sort of moving.
So on a stage race itself, how are you making that work? What are the differences to just the everyday?
Yeah, I think primarily it's the travel that's the difference for us with the stage race. Obviously, where this is being great. I guess you've been based out of here, so you set there. But typically, most of these stage races are point to point. So you transition in all your equipment, your bike bags, your resource, your spare bikes, your riders from one point to another. So it's a different hotel each time, and there's a lot of logistical challenges around planning that really. So,
sure.
Yeah, that's the main consideration typically on a race like this. So Tour Britain, for example, it starts in Cornwall this year on September the 5th, and it finishes in Aberdeen on September the 12th.
And it's got a couple of days in Wales, and
So for that,
it's crazy.
It's a massive amount of work to understand how we're getting from each of these points and how we're doing that in the most economical and time efficient way, really.
Fabulous. Now, I know you've talked about Tour Britain, but Tour Series is one of your focuses this year. How are you getting ready for that? Hopefully it's going to happen in August. Things have changed. You've had to kind of rethink and rechange all your plans all the time. How's that looking?
Yeah, very well. So there's 5 rounds this year. There's some local ones that I think they're under embargo for now, but some real good new local venues, which is really important for us as fundamentally we're still a North East based team. But we deliberately recruited some riders that have a lot of experience in the Tour Series, because it's one of the domestic opportunities that's so important for us, with it being televised. So we have Matt Gibson this year. He's a former national criterium champion, youngest ever stage winner of a round winner of a Tour Series. So we're really setting our stall out to do well there. We'd like to win the overall series and some rounds with it. So. And
some of your guys, like you just said, have got good form when it comes to Tour Series, haven't they?
They have, yeah. We got Freddie as well.
Yeah.
He won in Salisbury. In the circuit at Durham, if Durham's back on, really suits some of our strengths with James and with Dan. So yeah, we're putting a lot of emphasis on that. So we'll see. And it's really close to the Tour of Britain. So if we do well there, it carries a lot of confidence and a lot of weight for the riders into the biggest race of the season.
And I guess that's been part of you're having to adapt, is that there's a race calendar. And you normally know that race calendar. You've normally got a pretty good idea, even maybe a year ahead, haven't you, of what will happen when. And I know every athlete has gone through this, but how do you respond to the constant changes and the insecurity of not knowing what's happening when?
I think last year was much harder because we didn't know if things were going to start. Where this year, although things typically we'd start in March, this year we started in sort of late April. But we've almost understand that the season's going to be significantly backloaded. So they've just announced the National Championships, for example, which is in late October in Lincoln. We'd never race, the lads would be on a beach somewhere in October. So we know, although it sort of started later, it's going to finish later, so the season length is the same.
Right.
And for us, it's really backloaded, some really important things in the autumn there. So we need to sort of frame everything that we're doing now with that to ensure that we still have a level of freshness and performance when it comes to those races as well.
So could you give us a bit of insight into what your goals are then this year? What are you looking to achieve as a team?
We want to win bike races, fundamentally.
That'll do.
At any level, but the national tour is obviously the first time we've ever competed in that, so that's a really big objective for us to be visible there, and in terms of securing our future for a number of years as a team, performance there will do us a lot of a lot on the way towards that. But we have some other big races coming up. We've got Tour of Slovenia next week. That's live on Eurosport. So with Pogacar's riding and a couple of other good teams. So we've got a really good race programme. So for us, it's about being as visible as we can. Giving the riders like James, like Matt, like Dan, the platform to really show people what they're capable of, and then that will elevate us as a team. But in turn, it'll elevate those riders to a position where they can continue to progress through the sport, and someone like James hopefully get to where he really belongs.
And we've talked, myself and Rich, a lot about the state of cycling or not, and how cycling. How do you feel that the British cycling scene is at the moment? I know it's hard to say because we've had this kind of pause, but where would you say it's at? I mean, we've got a lot of young riders coming through. They're featuring, but the British scene itself.
Well, I think the sort of grassroots level and the participation level is probably as strong as it's ever been.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the domestic scene, it's probably the worst it's ever been.
Right.
So, for us, we basically don't have a race in the UK until August, of any value to us. So we have to spend, a significant amount of time and effort and resource seeking out opportunities in Europe, just because there isn't the equivalent opportunity here. So hopefully, as things sort of settle down and we have a firmer understanding of where we sit and get through the final stage of the roadmap, things will stabilise. But yeah, it's certainly it's not healthy by any means.
And do you have any thoughts on how that can change, or is that purely just ride the storm? Because it is a little bit of an up and down. You get these, don't you, in any sport? You get the kind of everybody's throwing the money in, everybody's excited, and then they back off, and then they go somewhere else, and then you have to pull in the interest again. Is that how it works, or are there things that could change quickly?
Well, I think we've seen, with Tour of Britain, the teams from domestically that know that this race is so important. Now they know that's on the schedules. In previous years there's been a selection process for that, and it's been sort of late August when you're riding, which is no way to prepare for a race like that. So all the teams domestically know that they're able to compete at that, so we can really plan it out. So I think that's a really important step. It's important that we have a national championship. That's the pinnacle of our domestic calendar, and the fact that it's at Lincoln, one of the most sort of prestigious races, is really good. We have Otley in Sheffield, and different things are coming back. So I think for us, it's just about being hopeful that these things will be
hanging in there a bit.
Yeah, there'll be some more opportunities, through the year here as well.
Well, Jack, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. That's given us a real insight, hasn't it, folks? Can we give Jack a massive round of applause?
Thank you.
And you're sticking around, people have a little chat, and if anybody wants to have a chat to Jack. Folks, that's us then. Thank you very much, and I'm going to be on the motorway very soon. So thank you very much for this weekend. You guys have been amazing, and we hope to see you again soon. Cheers!
Thank you, Joe.
You've been amazing, Joe.
Oh, thanks, love.
Just press the red button.
Thanks, Riley. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
We're all whispering, going, which one?